Hiya, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
You want to go do a podcast?
Sure.
Jump in.
Ladies and gentlemen, mini dolls and Technic minifigures of all ages, and everyone else, welcome to Binging Barbie. I'm your host, John, and with me I have my co-host. It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Jay, he's here, you can take a break. I'm not singing that.
I figured. The weird thing I noticed is after I wrote this, maybe this was subconscious, but I remembered that in elementary school, the PE teacher, the gym class teacher, had a nickname for me, which was Sunshine.
Okay.
So, yeah, didn't think about that when I was choosing the... Because there aren't quotes in this movie. So I just went with song lyrics.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair choice.
Yeah, fair. Anyway, this is a podcast about toy media franchises, 2000s nostalgia, and whatever else we want to talk about. And this week we're here to talk about the most recent theatrically released Lego movie, Piece by Piece. And joining us once again, we have a special guest. You can't be him, he's a rock star. Toa Legend.
That's me. I don't have any. Again, I don't have any quotes to respond with because there's not a lot of quotes in this movie.
Yeah. This is an odd one to say the least. I wish I had seen this in the theater because I have seen all of the other Lego movies in the theater. This was one that when it came out last year, I was like, oh, I should go and see that, and then never ended up getting around to it. But yeah, this is... Are either of you familiar with Pharrell prior to this documentary?
I think me, like most people, know him most from Happy and any of the things that he's done for Despicable Me. And that's the extent of my knowledge of him.
Yeah, again, I know him mostly from Despicable Me, plus his collaboration with Daft Punk and whatever Weird Al parody. So, I've definitely heard of his music. I definitely know the name, but I've not gone specifically to listen to his stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's similar to my relationship with him before watching this film, is that, yeah, I obviously had heard Get Lucky and Happy many times back when they came out, and hadn't really seen much else by him. And obviously a lot of his work has been sort of in the background of these big songs that, watching the documentary, I kept recognizing songs to be like, oh, I've actually heard this stuff, which I'm not super plugged into music, so that was interesting to learn about. But yeah, this is Piece by Piece, the documentary, Lego documentary. Again, wild that this is one of the Lego movies. But yeah, after the success of Get Lucky and Happy, Pharrell Williams began exploring ways to tell his life story as a movie. So this was back in 2013, and eventually he settled on, rather than going the traditional route, he wanted to do it in the style of the Lego movies. So he approached the documentarian Morgan Neville in early 2020, and the two began to work on the film. Yeah, I think a lot of the interviews were conducted sort of remotely, while everyone was stuck at home with nothing else to do, so they were able to secure some pretty big interview subjects. But yeah, this was released October 11, 2024, written and directed by Morgan Neville. Yes, documentaries are written.
Yeah. Somewhat.
Especially something that's as produced as this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Morgan Neville is a prominent documentary filmmaker. He directed Best of Enemies, Won't He Be My Neighbor, the Fred Rogers documentary from a few years ago. That's actually quite good. And Mickey, the Story of a Mouse. And he actually won the Oscar for Best Documentary Feature for 20 Feet from Stardom.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we have music by Michael Andrews of Freaks and Geeks, Donnie Darko, Bridesmaids, a whole lot of interesting albums there. And we have some original songs by Pharrell as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And following the plot of this film, so the film follows the story of Pharrell Williams, who grew up in the city of Virginia Beach along with a few other future artists. They formed the band The Neptunes with his friend Chad Hugo, and they got the attention of producer Teddy Riley and started working for him. Eventually, they left to work on their own music and began collaborating with other artists. Throughout the 90s and 2000s, The Neptunes became one of the biggest producers in the world of hip hop and pop music. And after the death of his grandmother, Pharrell loses his creative spark, and he finally has a comeback in 2013 with the releases of Get Lucky and Happy. Yep, that's it.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
I
that's
feel like
basically it.
I feel like there's this conception, which again, documentaries are written. They take stuff from interviews that are drawing from true stories, but they are making decisions about what to show and what to skip and different things going on here. So I do think it is interesting to dig into the story a bit here. Um, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not super familiar with Pharrell beyond what I've seen in this documentary, but there were some interesting moments where I noticed that they were maybe making decisions about what information to include and exclude. I don't think maliciously, but this is like, yeah, this is a film produced by Pharrell. So the way that the first Lego movie is a Lego advertisement and the Lego Batman movie is a Batman advertisement, this is a bit of a Pharrell Williams ad.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah, it's definitely interesting the story. I guess the choice of how they presented the story, because going into this, I thought this was going to be more of like a biopic, something like
Yeah.
the I don't know, I'm
Bohemian
trying to
Rhapsody.
draw on, yeah, that one. I'm trying to draw on ones that I've seen, and I'm realizing I haven't seen a lot. But I was like, okay, yeah, it'll have like a regular narrative, and it'll grow up with Pharrell being uh, uh, a child that's voice acted, and show him growing up and all of that. And then what we got was a documentary, and I was like, okay, interesting. Um, which I think had, some good points. It did feel more authentic in a lot of ways because I didn't feel like everybody was scripted. There might have been some scripting along the way. I would assume there was, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I also a lot of them did sound pretty genuine when they were talking. So
I mean, yeah,
hard to
the
say.
interviews are almost certainly genuine. Yeah, when someone writes a documentary, what they're doing is they're writing out like the narration parts and then going through the interviews and like which bits are we gonna. Yeah, they aren't
Yeah,
necessarily writing a script for everyone to follow, but there is
right, right.
writing involved. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I feel
mean,
like that's a
first
common.
they have
Yeah,
to start with like having hours of interviews and then finding like a common thread in all of them to be like, all right, here's our story now. I see a
yeah.
pattern, and then
Which here
whatever
I think it's
stuff you need to
interesting.
add to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you bring up this connection to biopics because I do
Mm.
think even though this isn't not it's not Bohemian Rhapsody in the sense that it's not a narrative film, but it is following a specific structure that actually reminded me a lot of music biopics, and part of that is just like musicians who are successful often have a similar story of sort of early love with the medium and finding success and then kind of not knowing what to do with that success, and then there's sort of a falling out before maybe a final triumph. But I was watching this and being like, okay, I wonder if like this is a very familiar narrative we're following, a very like it has a 3 act structure, it has all of these things, even though it is a documentary and we're cutting away to interviews. I do wonder if a more true version of events maybe has more ups and downs and doesn't resolve as neatly in the end.
Yeah.
Sure.
And again, I don't
Yeah.
know Pharrell, I don't know much about his life from other perspectives besides what this film provides. So maybe his life fits perfectly into this convenient 3 act structure. But I mean, considering the fact that he is still working, obviously the little bow that this ties on the end doesn't necessarily that's not necessarily the
Yeah.
end of the story.
Yeah. Well, and there's also like I kept thinking about it the whole time. They did take some liberties, but because because it's done in Lego, they also have to worry about the brand image of Lego.
Yeah.
So there's certain aspects that I'm sure they could not talk about while using this medium because it's just too adult. And they did more than I expected, I'll be honest. They're like
Yeah, they got some curse words
they
under
got
the
some
wire.
curse words in, which I was not expecting. But I was like, okay, fair. Um, but yeah, obviously we'll talk several times about like the PG spray,
Yes.
Mhm.
and things like that, where they did some creative censorship. But
There were
yeah,
even some oddly suggestive Lego designs.
yeah,
Yes, some of the they went for it, which I
Yeah.
honestly like. I would love to be in the boardroom when they were pitching this film to Lego, just to hear the
yeah,
conversations that were happening around. Because I kind of imagine, I have to imagine that they're making this in 2020 with no idea if they're actually going to be able to pull it off with Lego.
hmm
So then to have like this 4-year production, which documentaries often do take a long time to come together because you're bringing all this footage and trying to make a story out of it. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I'm just curious, like what that looked like, the back and forth between them and Lego, and like the corporate side of it. And hey, can we include this? No, maybe not that, but you can include this. Or maybe Lego was more hands off and we're just like, hey, here are the 3 things you can't do, and anything else is fair game.
yeah, yeah. I would really love to know like just the inner workings of all of this because
Yeah,
I'm sure the prospect of this from Lego's perspective is like this is just free advertising for them. Um, I don't know that they had to put in too much work aside from like being there to approve or disprove things, disapprove, not approve,
reject.
unapprove, reject. That's probably a better word. Approve or reject things. And they might have worked with Universal directly to be like, yeah, here's our parts that you can use in whatever 3D animation software. Um, but like from the Lego perspective, I don't think they added anything to um like they lost it. I don't think they lost any resources by this movie coming out. That is, of
Yeah.
course, unless, you know, Pharrell gets canceled in like 5-10 years for doing something crazy. Then they will have lost a lot of like brand uh
I I will say
repertoire.
I am gonna like talk a tiny bit about some of his controversies, but he has thus far remained pretty clear of controversy. So again, you never know with big celebrities like this. But yeah, no, this does seem to be. I mean, the people who might have gotten mad about this movie, it wasn't big enough for them to get mad about it.
Fair. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
yeah, it's kind of able to skirt on by. Yeah, it's interesting that this was in production, and it was actually, I think, announced alongside there was a planned like actual biopic, narrative biopic that was going to be made. I think they actually filmed it, to
Mm,
be directed by Michel Gondry, and
mm,
a few months ago, in May 9 of 2025, they actually canceled it, so it will now
mm.
not be released. But yeah,
Rip.
they had made this documentary, and then they were making this other project alongside, and both of them, or piece by piece, comes out, and this other one was canceled. I would be curious what the thought process behind that was. But yeah, this, I mean, this movie does a very good job of telling this story from sort of Pharrell's perspective. We maybe aren't getting a full picture of everything. the one specific thing, just so that I actually like talk about it rather than just alluding to it. His creative partner Chad Hugo and him had a falling out last year, like shortly
Oh,
before the release of this film. So
dang.
yeah, it's odd to see him in this documentary be like, oh yeah, we were friends and we did all of this stuff together and he's a cool guy, and then to be reading articles from what was probably stuff for like this, they probably recorded the stuff for this movie like 4 years before the film was actually released. So who knows what happened at that time? But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
That is
it,
interesting.
it's yeah. I did find this very informative though. Of as someone who was not super familiar with Pharrell, like learning how many songs he was involved in on the production side that I recognize. Like I think I recognize pretty much every song in this film, just like from hearing them around like in shopping malls or
Mm-hmm.
in
For sure, yeah.
movies. And yeah, it was just
Yeah.
cool. Like music production is not a thing I'm super familiar with, so getting to see that side of things and have
Yeah.
it's just visualized very well. It's a good like look into the industry, but then at the same time, it is like a bit of a hagiography, which is to say that it's not super critical of Pharrell. I don't think it is at all critical of him.
Yeah. Like the most critique is like, oh, he was too much of a visionary.
Yeah.
Like it answers the question similar to like a job interview where they're like, what
Yeah.
is your biggest weakness? And it's like, I'm just too good at what I do. You know, people don't understand my pure talent.
Mm-hmm.
Which he is clearly
Uh,
incredibly talented.
yeah.
So there is like a part of me that's like, well, yeah, he has kind of earned this kind of thing as much as anyone can earn this kind of thing. But yeah, the stuff like what happened with Chad Hugo, and that's like personal stuff that we aren't privy to the details of what exactly happened there, but that makes me wonder what we're not seeing here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was just the kind of like glossed and like danced over section about, oh, he got into some trouble with like these greedy businessmen who used him for stuff. And it's like, okay, can you be more elaborate about what exactly happened there?
it's it's the thing that all of the music biopics do, of you have like the faceless boardroom of evil industry people, which yeah, people in the music industry can be very predatory towards talented
Oh yeah.
people. So
For sure.
it's a trope that has a lot of truth to it. But yeah, it does kind of gloss over. And there's stuff like I don't know if either of you would be familiar with this, but because I definitely wasn't familiar when it was happening. But the song in the music video for Blurred Lines, which is a Robin Thicke
Oh
song, um,
yeah.
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 yeah, sort of this highly controversial. The song itself is about men going after women who are saying no to the men. The music video features um, men dancing with topless women. It was not well received at the time. It actually kind of torpedoed Robin Thicke's career. Um,
Mm.
in addition, he had like another scandal going on at the time, so those two things. But writer on the song and featured on the track and in the music video is Pharrell.
Hmm. Interesting.
And
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it does.
yeah,
The song has a good production to it. Like it
yeah.
has good sound.
But yeah,
Uh,
it is interesting because this was 2013, so this is the same year as Happy and Get Lucky. So I think he maybe skirted on by the controversy a little bit there, where it hit his collaborators a little harder. But yeah, that isn't
yeah.
even hinted at here in this documentary. And yeah, one thing to me, which this is something I knew going into the documentary because I had read some articles about it when the information first came out. Um, this is like a relatively harmless thing, I think, but just a way to illustrate the way that the messaging is, or they're massaging the story to fit a specific narrative. um Happy, obviously, that's the song he made for Despicable Me 2, and it took 8 or 9 tries before they agreed a on the song that would be used in the film. So according to this documentary, he sort of tapped into this genuine happiness of he's spending time with his family and with his kid, and it inspires him to write this song, and it's this super sincere thing. In
Yeah.
interviews he did promoting the film, he actually said that he wrote the song from a more sarcastic perspective. That after being rejected 8 or 9 times, he was like, well, I'm going to write this more sarcastic version of like this response. And I think like the version the version of the narrative used in the movie really fits the narrative of the movie itself, where like this is, we have seen Pharrell has gone through his dark night of the soul and he has come out the other side, and now this is this big triumph. He has his family, he has his career back, and now he has released this song that expresses everything in his heart. But I find
Yeah.
the other side, if this is made from sarcasm, like the song has always had an off quality to me, which I think makes it more interesting than most like generic kids movie pop songs are. Like when he says he's happy in the song, you're like, are you? Like
Yeah.
maybe you are in life, but when you're singing the song, you don't sound the happiest, which I think
Y-
makes it a more interesting song. But it doesn't fit
y-
as neatly into the narrative that they've constructed for this movie.
Yeah, it does have like it gives me vibes of everything is awesome. Where like
Yeah,
the
Mhm.
song itself is like, yeah, everything is great, but then you start thinking about it, it's like, okay, maybe not. The
yeah,
lyrics of that one are a lot more like, haha, we're making fun of ourselves. Don't just have pure optimism. But yeah. I will admit, like, Happy always had this undertone of like so optimistic that it felt off. And
yeah,
yeah, I agree with you. Like they touch on the fact that like the way that he produced it to be this, happy song, and then when people uh would meet with him, they would be like, "Yeah, this song really saved me during a time when I was really down, and it brought me up, and that it became like a beacon of light in darkness." And that was cool, but also for him it meant that he had to um really witness a lot of darkness because of that.
yeah,
And I think that's cool. It is a little bit more generic of like a
yeah,
like story. So if that is fictitious, it kind of is a bummer.
yeah. Which
Especially if
I
there's a
do think
better
it is
one
like,
out there.
yeah, it's the last 10 minutes of the movie, so obviously they can't get into here's a large section on how he made his biggest hit. But yeah, there is this like it seems like the actual story behind the song is a bit more complicated than what the film is presenting, and that makes me wonder what else is the film presenting as super simple narratives that really aren't that simple. What perspectives are we missing here? What truths are being massaged? And this is a thing with all documentaries. No documentary, no matter how verite it claims to be, is an accurate representation of truth. It is being, someone is making the decision of what they show, what they don't show, what's in the frame that you're seeing, and what is outside of the frame. So, yeah, this is something that it's just a truth of documentaries that they're never going to be 100% accurate.
For
That's not
sure.
really what the medium is made for. It's made for telling a narrative and
Yeah,
presenting hopefully a more truthful version of a narrative than a like Bohemian Rhapsody does. But
right.
especially since Pharrell is the one who instigated this project, who found the director, who produced this project, who wrote the songs. we are seeing his perspective. This is very much his film. So criticisms of him are kind of kept to a minimum.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, again, I don't think he's like sitting in his cave laughing maniacally about how he's tricked everyone into thinking he's this great person. I think this
Yeah.
is, again, this is an advertisement for Pharrell in the same way that the Lego movie is an advertisement for Lego.
Yeah. It is just unfortunately pretty generic.
Yeah.
And I think like for me, story-wise, there's just not in a general story, there's like this 3-act structure, right? Where, you know, it's the rise of the hero kind of thing. And maybe there's some trouble partway through, and then, you know, the hero triumphs in the end. In this one, it's like the lines of where those start and end are kind of blurred, which makes the
Right.
pacing kind of rough.
Yeah.
I thought most of the movie was going to be, you know, them struggling, and then they finally make it, and then there's a little bit more struggle, and then he makes it again. And instead it was like they struggle for a bit and then they're instantly fine. And I feel like there's no stakes for a lot of the film. And then he has troubles writing music, and I'm like, okay, they're going to focus on this, and then that takes 5 minutes, and then they're back to everything's fine. And I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
even if that's how it happened, maybe play it up a little bit, because the parts where he's fine are kind of the boring parts.
But those are the parts involving all of the famous people who did the interviews, and you want to get Jay-Z and Justin Timberlake, and this is going to ruin the tour. What tour? The world tour.
The world tour.
John, are you familiar with that?
I don't know.
So Justin Timberlake was driving drunk and got pulled over by a young cop. And as the cop is going through the process, Justin Timberlake says, because the cop doesn't recognize him as Justin Timberlake. So Justin Timberlake is just like sitting there shaking his head. This is going to ruin the tour. Cop goes, what tour? The world tour.
Just a crazy thing to say.
Tour.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Sounds like something like a cartoon villain would say when he's about to do something.
It's been quoted to oblivion because it's just such a crazy thing to say. Honestly, it's so fun to, like, if there's any mild inconvenience, just to go, this is going to ruin the tour. So good.
I gave the story here. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go.
Oh, I was going to wrap up the story, so if you have something to add, then.
No, that was all. I was just going to transition us back.
Yeah, I gave the story here a 2.5 out of 5. It's well told, but the more I think about it, the more I wonder how much of it I can rely on to be an accurate representation of events. And again, Pharrell so far has stayed relatively free of controversy. He's well respected in the industry. I don't think he's this evil maniacal villain who is in his evil lair cackling as everyone as he. But yeah, there are these just little elements here or there that I'm like, okay, there's more to the story here. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I agree. I gave it a 2.5 as well. I think for me, it just had a lot of pacing issues, and it was really cool to like learn about Pharrell's life and like an artist that I had known a little bit about, but not very much. It was cool to see like just his impact on the music industry and several different genres. But also that was about it as far as the story. Like, I feel like the story can be summarized in like 3 sentences, and it lacks a lot of depth. So, I don't know. I think there's only so much you can do with a documentary style when you're having to adhere to both reality, uh, a documentary narrative, and whatever Lego is requiring of you to make sure that it's not too inappropriate for PG audiences.
Right.
So I still enjoyed it enough.
Yeah. And I also gave it a 2.5. It is kind of like hard to like rate stories for documentaries because they're not like full on stories. There's just a lot of people talking about things from their perspective, and it's like kind of up for interpretation, to be said.
Yeah.
Anyway, characters. We don't really have characters. We have people. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that kind of a weird category to talk about here. But yeah, we have Pharrell. He is very much the central figure, and like, yeah, Toa, as you mentioned, the way he transcended genre, because this is something, even as someone who isn't super familiar with music, I know that especially in the 2000s and the 2010s, there was this shift away from genres as these like separate containers into which artists could, like, you can't be a hip hop artist and a pop artist. But then figures like Pharrell kind of started pushing those together. It'd be like, hey, what if there's more in common between these two? What if we can bring these two worlds together? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's like a massively influential thing that he was able to
mhm.
achieve. And yeah, just fascinating figure that I hadn't realized the extent to which he was that influential.
Yeah.
No.
I,
Yeah.
I, I admit, like, I really like, again, I didn't know a lot about him before this movie.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to hear that a big part of what he did was like step across those lines that were drawn in the sand and really like just blend genres, because that's my favorite type of music, is when you can
Yeah.
get one genre and just like completely switch it up and do something new with it. Love that. And so I do really appreciate that. It was also cool to see that he started um, with a chosen instrument, or I guess not so chosen, but like the first instrument that he started learning on was like a snare drum. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like a lot of his beats are really rhythmic and like good at drawing people in. And I think when beats are produced from a perspective of uh, with a background of instruments like piano or guitar, you end up with things that are very melodically interesting, but maybe not so rhythmically interesting. Uh, and so it makes a lot of sense that he has that background, because I feel like a lot of the beats that I heard in the movie and that I knew beforehand were uh, very engaging on that side. So that was
Yeah,
cool to learn.
and the film does a really good job exploring his own perspective on that, and sort of, because he has synesthesia. So I'm not fully familiar with it, but it is sort of the association between sound and color, and almost the ability to see sound. Not literally, but yeah. From my understanding of it, it is very difficult to explain to someone who does not experience it. But
Mhm.
because we're in
Yeah.
this Lego medium and it's sort of heightened already, we're able to get into that a little bit, and like to see the beats that he is creating be physical objects that people can interact with.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah. I
that's
think,
just very cool.
yeah. I'll
I,
especially talk about it more in the visual side, but like the way that they show off the beats is, I think, a very smart way to do it.
mhm.
Yeah.
I don't really have much understanding about music history or how the the shift was, especially in the past like 30 years. So I kind of have to take like the film's word at value about like, oh, he changed his music. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it. I won't take your word that he was stranded in space and was rescued by Daft Punk, but um,
I mean,
you know,
we I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I
If
don't know that he
anybody's gonna
wasn't.
rescue you from space, I think Daft Punk is a safe bet.
Yeah, yeah. I do think like again, I am not a scholar in this era of music or any era of music. Um, I do think if you take this film at face value, it might start to seem like Pharrell is the most important artist currently alive. I feel like there is more context beyond that. Other artists who are kind of contributing, even like his partner in these endeavors, Chad Hugo, who doesn't get a ton of focus, but he is an important figure in this as well. Um, not he his career has been very different. He doesn't do singing on any tracks, so I think
Mhm.
that's kind of led to him being more of a background figure. But he does actually, like, he shows up in the drop it like it's hot Snoop Dogg video. I was noticing him in the background of certain things. So but again, he doesn't have that same star power, and he isn't the subject of his own Lego documentary, so we don't get
Sure.
much of a sense for how much of this is his contribution versus Pharrell. And yeah,
Could
like
you?
I wish I gotten more of his perspective because of this falling out that they have since had. Like
Mhm.
that's the kind of juicy gossip that I want to get a sense of.
Could you imagine if rappers, rather than like making diss tracks to like clap back at each other, if like if Chad Hugo decided, no, 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 I'm gonna clap back at Pharrell by making a my own Lego movie that paints the real picture, and then we just got a series of like Lego movies filled with beef. Um,
I would watch those. I can't pretend to be super invested in hip hop drama, a field that I have been led to believe is quite deep, and there are lines that are drawn, and again, I that is kind of beyond me as someone who is not super into hip hop as a genre. I like some hip hop songs. I like a lot of hip hop songs. I don't subscribe to any particular artist in that scene. So, but yeah,
Mhm.
I would watch Lego movies about all of these people if they made them.
yeah, I would watch them at least once, and
Yeah.
especially if like there's an underlying drama to them, where it's like
Yes.
actually this is
Yes.
the real narrative. I would be like, okay, this is funny. I
Yeah.
appreciate this.
I'd watch them for the podcast.
Disumentaries.
Disumentaries.
Yeah.
I love it. Trademark that right now.
Yeah. I think it's interesting how involved in the film Morgan Neville himself as a director is, how he is
Yeah.
a character here, which is a thing I think, especially in the last 10-15 years of documentary filmmaking. My favorite example of this is the documentary Free Solo, which is probably my
Ah.
favorite documentary I've seen. Excellent. If you haven't seen it, even if you don't like documentaries, go and watch it. It is phenomenal,
Mhm.
intense, lots of fun. Um, but yeah, this idea of the filmmaker being involved, or the director in this case being involved in the story and showing up, it's kind of a way to humanize the process a little bit. And I think especially here, you need someone who can be like, so we're doing this in Lego, and then Pharrell can
Yeah.
be like, yeah, we're doing this in Lego. But yeah,
Yeah.
I thought his role in here worked out as sort of he's the curator of the story. He's kind of there to ask the questions that the audience is wondering.
Mhm.
Yeah. It does ground a lot of it. I think like you put that very well. To have him in the role does enough to explain why we're doing it Lego, even if it's just a why. It's just like because uh it's enough.
Yeah. We also just have a ton of people being interviewed. We mentioned Snoop Dogg and the PG spray. That's just a
Yeah.
great little moment. Um,
That
yeah.
when it first was introduced, I like it said PG spray and I was like, "Oh, okay, this is just going to be the thing that makes sure that Snoop Dogg doesn't like curse. And then it cuts to the room filled with smoke after the PG spray is used, and I'm like, ah, I see what they did there.
I'm surprised they like went that route. I was like, whoa, like it was actually letting them do that because you'd think they normally just wouldn't have that there.
Yeah.
It's like you don't need
Yeah,
the smoke for Snoop Dogg, but it does add to his image.
I
true.
think this is I think it's just like funny and clever enough that if Lego had any issues with it, they just kind of had to let it pass. Because I mean, the other thing, okay, this does. I guess this is the conversation we're currently having. I am so surprised that this isn't a PG-13, and that must be a
Oh,
Lego side thing. But I had just assumed you could go back and listen to the very end of the Lego Movie Part Two, or the second part episode, where I reacted live to finding out that this was rated PG and not PG-13, and I had to take a second to go, wait, what? How did they do that? But yeah, it
Yeah,
is like, because I can't imagine any kid was dragging their parents to see this. Maybe they were. Maybe since it's colorful and Lego, maybe there is. But
yeah.
yeah, it was an odd decision that I kind of respect. I find it kind of funny that this is a PG movie. It's kind of like a Peachet Pongwira Sethical's film Memoria, which very different film. I just find it funny that that long and slow cinema poetic thing is rated PG, as like a parent going to the theater like, oh, what should we take our kids to? Oh, let's see the new Tilda Swinton art house film.
yeah.
Just imagining, were parents taking their kids to see the Pharrell documentary? What were the kids' reactions? I should see if I can find. I'm gonna look
uh,
on the Amazon reviews, because that is the best place to look for people being like, why isn't this animated movie for kids?
To be fair,
yeah.
it like of movies that have come out in the past year and a half, I I wouldn't be too upset with like if I had kids showing this to them.
Yeah.
Like there are some moments and I think some of the language can get a little bit like more intense than I would want to show my hypothetical children. But like otherwise like it's pretty like tame overall. I would
Yeah.
show this to them over the Minecraft movie if that helps.
Oh, okay, so here we have from Andrew Hack, a 5 out of 5 star review. Inspiring movie. Went and saw this movie in theaters and pre-ordered it the same day because their kiddos loved it so much. That's the top
Interesting.
review on
Huh.
Amazon. So apparently, kids loving this movie.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
At least two, I presume, since that was plural. Oh, and then here a little further down from Phil and Lauren, 2 stars, not for kids. Fun music and visuals, but didn't appreciate the uncensored swear words, including the S word 3 times. I had to shut it off as I was watching with my child.
Yeah.
I feel like after they've heard it once, you could just commit.
Yeah,
Because it's the end of the movie.
true. At that point you pause, you say, "Hey, that's not a word that we use,
Yeah.
but that's a word that they're using. They're allowed to use the word in this film only, okay? All right, let's watch the next 2 minutes. Okay."
That's yeah. Amazon reviews are fun. Anyway, so apparently we have conflicting opinions on if this is for kids or not. I would show this to kids. I don't
Yeah,
know if the kids
that's
would
fine.
be entertained by it the way they would
No,
by other Lego movies, but
I think they might be entertained by the first like 10 minutes once the story actually starts, and then after that be like,
I don't know
"Okay,
what's going
can we
on. Yeah.
can we put on Bluey?"
Yeah.
I would honestly though show this to people um in like a an educational setting, as like teaching them how documentaries can tell narratives rather than just displaying historical fact.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
for sure. And
again,
even
that's not.
in an educational perspective too, I think at least the first part of this movie is would be really good for teachers to watch because of how it shows um Pharrell as being this kid that is maybe not super good in school in like the regular academia, but is really like talented in music arts, and
Yeah,
how, just giving him that small opportunity of playing in the band and getting to know other people really sparked his career. I think that part in and of itself, I saw that and I was like, oh, this is actually, if this is going to be like the crux of the movie, this is a really cool story to tell. It wasn't, but like the 10 minutes that part of the movie happened was like, this would be good to show teachers, I think.
yeah.
Just the teachers.
Just the teachers,
Yep.
Yeah.
maybe not the students. I don't know.
I think this would be like, for kids who are interested in music, this would actually be a good film to show them. Just like, it touches a little bit on the industry side, but is still very focused on the creativity part.
With parent permission slips, of course.
Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a teacher, so I'm.
either
But
that or
yeah,
the teacher
anyway.
has to cough really loud, what, 3 times
Yeah,
to
yeah,
avoid the S word.
yeah. They're mostly censored. It is
True,
PG.
it's PG.
Yeah.
No, I found it interesting. I don't have a sense for. I hadn't heard of this artist before, but we see Pharrell initially gets signed with a producer, Teddy Riley, and I thought it was interesting how the film portrayed him, because he is signing these high schoolers to a
Mhm.
contract that like stops them from being able to make and release their own music.
Right.
But the film isn't presenting him in a negative light.
Yeah, I do think a part of it is just a product of the times. Like nowadays, you can be an artist that is self-producing and still make it really
Yeah,
far. There's countless people that made it through either YouTube or SoundCloud or anything like that. Bunch of stories of that nowadays. Back then, not really as common. So I think this was kind of like the only route, and so it's presented in a good light because yeah, he did a great job of really giving kids an opportunity to meet people in the music industry. But if this was happening nowadays, it would be like, oh, this is kind of predatory and like not like in a not in a sexual way, but like in a
yeah, yeah,
predatory way of like, yeah, we're kind of eliminating competition at the same time as making them work for us so we get more productivity overall, and we kind of own them, is like that is a little weird.
yeah. And he's contributing to their tracks. He
Yeah.
writes lyrics for one of Teddy Riley's songs. Which, yeah,
Hmm.
again, that is good experience, and it seems like, yeah, he was paid for it, because he talks about
Hmm.
blowing his paycheck on stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is that, like, usually in these types of stories, the producer who is preventing the artist from being creative is presented a little bit more villainously. So yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like if there was any beef, it has been resolved at this point, and now they're like, he's showing up in this documentary to do interviews, so they clearly have some kind of respect for each other. I just thought it was interesting in how this story is being framed to bring that up.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, we're getting like all of the interview subjects are presented, and obviously the documentary doesn't have time to get into controversies around any of the people that are being interviewed or stuff that has popped up since then. I think like Gwen Stefani has gone off the deep end recently. Again, that common thing to happen with celebrities, that um they they are people too, and sometimes they do odd things. Or I think for her it's specifically like embracing alt-right conspiracy theory type stuff.
Oh,
um
Sure.
yeah. But no, yeah, it is interesting that all of these people are being presented to us as these um respected industry figures. But it is also very interesting to see that all of these people are showing up for interviews for this film and being like, oh yeah, Pharrell, he's a cool guy, he's very talented. Like, it's clear that he commands a certain amount of respect and creative admiration from his peers.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I don't know if that has anything to do with characters. So I give the characters a 3 out of 5 because I don't know how to evaluate that for this.
Yeah, I feel
They're
like
just
3 out of 5
people.
is, yeah, just my, like, they chose good people for move to interview, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to evaluate this one, so I just went middle of the road with a 3 as well.
Yeah, so did I.
Oh, this is interesting. Or maybe not, but there was one Lego set, promotional tie-in Lego set released for this film, and it's a spaceship, and then a couple minifigures of Pharrell and I believe his partner, and then it's just a display of the heads of various people, like minifigure heads of various people in the film. And the promotional video
Interesting.
for the set is like, oh, you can swap the heads out so you can have your Jay-Z figure or your Justin Timberlake minifigure. It looks kind of ugly. It's just like, I think it's like 42
Oh,
minifigure heads in like a stand. It's
yeah, I'm
odd.
looking at it.
The
That
ship
is weird.
part looks good, but
The ship part does look good. The like heads, I admit, looks a little bit more
serial killer.
yeah. This looks like you know Sid from Toy Story? It looks like a
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
creation of his. That's so
It is
funny.
kind of cool that they just have like, there are now these real life celebrities have their own minifigures or
Oh yeah,
minifigure
and
heads. But
on the bottom it's labeled "My Friends," but "Friends" is spelled
yes.
PHRIND.
I don't.
If it wasn't so expensive, I would buy it for the novelty of it.
Where's
But
Daft Punk?
I they must not. I mean, I don't
They
know what their faces look like. So
unless
But
they're
no, they're
supposed to be the
robot
helmets on the
heads.
top.
But
yeah,
they're robot heads. Those don't look like them. What are we doing here?
No, I agree.
we need
So
Lego
true.
Daft Punk.
We had it.
True.
We need a Lego Daft Punk documentary.
I would watch that actually. That does sound very good.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah,
Visuals.
onto the visuals. Apparently, this had a budget of $16 million. That's compared to 60 to 99 million for the other Lego movies. How did they do this? How?
That's
How?
pretty impressive.
I don't understand how they made it look this good. Like,
Yeah,
it is definitely. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I think we were just about to say the same thing. It's clearly not as visually good as the others. But I admit that like it's like just maybe a step or two down. Like if the others are a 10 out of 10, the visuals on this are like 7 out of 10. So for like less than half the budget and it being just a couple steps down, I'm impressed. They did a great job with everything that they did do too, because they really played with those like the lighting and like the floating pieces and stuff. Did a great job with that.
Yeah, to me, like, quality wise, just pure quality wise, it's a bit of a step down. You can tell a little bit more. The lighting makes things look a little bit more CG and less like actual plastic. Creativity wise, this made me excited about this being a Lego movie. The most of these Lego movies since the first Lego. That's a bad way of phrasing this. How do I phrase this? That the first Lego movie, when it came out, it was so exciting because it's like, oh, everything is Lego. And then each subsequent Lego movie, it feels a little bit less special. This one felt
Yeah.
special.
Yeah. It did have a lot of like I think the visuals had a lot of soul to them. You know, like there was just a lot of substance and care that went into it. And like the the way they do not just like, pieces on a set that move similar to stop motion, but they do a lot of like really clever things that you can only do with Lego. In that like you'll have a character walking from one scene to another and the background of the scene completely like gets taken apart and then rebuilt into the new shot. And it's like that's cool. That's using Lego in a very specific way that you can't do with a real world set really. Uh just a lot of it felt, as much as I had a lot of issues with the pacing, the visuals blended seamlessly, I felt.
Yeah. No, it is. It just works. It's so creative.
Yeah.
Like, as a documentary, they have a little bit more leeway with what they're doing for sort of the B-roll footage. It's kind of weird to call it B-roll footage since it's all animated. But yeah,
Yeah.
they're taking it and going in fantastical creative directions. Like the cutting back to like visuals of water and space, like these
Yep.
contrasting things. Um yeah, it just looks incredible. And like nothing we have seen in the Lego movies before, it's more expressionistic, it's less literal. We're seeing like the beats be physical objects in the world rather than just, auditory concepts. Um,
Yeah.
the sound equipment, like having the lever pieces sticking through the grill pieces, like I don't know if that works physically with Legos, but I want to try it because it looks so good, so
Yeah.
creative.
And like so the a lot of it is animated in its like own way, and I'm sure, when they a lot of it I would be really intrigued to see what like the base footage was, like if they actually recorded some of these interviews and then just like animated over top of them, or like what that was like. But specifically, a lot of like the music videos that they show are just Legofied versions of those music videos, which is really cool. I think it's
Yeah,
always just fun to see when people take one thing and reimagine it through a different medium. Um, and it's expressively funnier when it's a rap music video done in Lego.
yeah.
Uh, it's just funny.
Yeah, there's a certain level of like kids bopification
Yeah,
by
yeah.
having it in Lego. But
I
there is also just so much creativity to how they're approaching it. It's I was
yeah,
excited while watching this just for the visuals.
yeah. And they do like the visuals do a really good job of capturing the emotion even when the score or the story might be lacking. There were definitely moments like when he's in the recording booth and he's not able to put anything together, and like suddenly you see through the window like his fish thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is such a good moment, a good way to tie in previous like visual metaphors in a way where you're not saying anything about the giant fish that's following him everywhere, but in that the fish is there. It's just such a cool way to connect back to like that initial spark, that uh, who he is. um it's very well done. I like the
Yeah.
visuals.
Yeah. I was beyond impressed throughout this. Even having like when the trailers were released, I watched them over and over again just as like trying to figure out what this was going to be. A
Yeah.
Lego documentary. Like what is it? But even like seeing the visuals from the trailers in the film, there's new context to them. And it all looks great. Like the fishbowl, such a small thing, but you have the fishbowl that he has at one point, and then he wears it on his head at a different point, and the like
Yeah.
fish is like a 2D swimming along the fishbowl as if it's like a sticker on a Lego piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the
I will.
colors. This is so colorful.
Yeah. I love the colors in this. I think where this shines the best for me is specifically how they display the beats that he makes as simple Lego pieces put together in different ways. Because I think to somebody outside of the music industry, me, um, I know enough about how like you can produce beats and sell them, and people can sample them and that kind of stuff. But I think it's a very clever way to show it off without having to be like, and this is my editing software, and this is a waveform, and when I do
Yeah,
this, it's like I you don't need to focus on that to know that he's putting in creative work. Show it as a few pieces that click together, and then they always make the pieces like have this glow to them too. Um, and a lot of them have like a little like dance that they do as they're producing this sound with
yeah,
them.
yeah,
And it's very clever.
yeah. I again, the visuals were just so good all across the
Yep.
board. And for the budget, like, yeah, this thing looks so good. I was so I have a list, as all movie nerds are want to have, of what I would have nominated for Oscars for various years. And of course, the Oscars have two categories. One for, well, they have more than two categories. Two categories are relevant here. They have one for best documentary feature and one for best animated feature. And I think only one film has been nominated for both. Um, I would, in my personal lists, I would nominate this for best animated feature, but not best documentary feature. I think as an
Really?
animated film, the visuals are just so stunning
Mm-hmm.
that just like as an animated work, this is phenomenal. I think as a documentary work, it's a hagiography of a pop culture figure. We get those documentaries like 5 times a year, more than that. Yeah, to me that like the animation is just the thing that makes this worth seeking out.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways the choice to go with Lego is what makes this movie watchable for me. I guess
Yeah.
it's not a genre that I am particularly interested in. I'm not a fanboy for Pharrell. I'm not someone that's like actively seeking out to know his story. But because it was done in Lego, I was like, okay, that's a common ground that I can relate to. I knew that if nothing else, I would have fun looking at all the pieces. They had at least 3 Bionicle pieces in it, so I was happy. Um, but I think the fact that they didn't go with just real life cutting from like one camera shot to another camera shot to B-roll to another camera shot um was a nice change of pace. And I
Yeah,
like when movies step out of their comfort zone to do something new. Um and I don't know if there's an animated medium that would have worked besides Lego for this. They
yeah,
really tie in the Lego brand well. Um where like I don't think they could do claymation and have it work as well. Um maybe they could, but it just
yeah,
doesn't feel like it would be the same.
yeah. Lego has such an expressive creativity to like the creation and destruction of things that other. I mean, the only other animated documentaries I've seen are Flow, or not Flow. Flea, the one that was nominated for both Oscars and for Best International Film, the only film to have done all three of those categories. It is very good, but that one is a much simpler style. It's 2D animation. That one is interestingly doing it because the subject of the film wanted to remain anonymous, so they decided to animate over the actual footage, and so that's kind of cool. And then Waltz with Bashir, who the director of that has since said and done things that are very questionable, but the film itself is very striking. But again, that's much simpler. It's very dark and very grounded in realism and bringing in these sort of more hallucinogenic stuff. Whereas, like, this is just so colorful and expressive and big. And it feels like it really fits with Pharrell as an artist with his style. Yeah, it's so good from a visual perspective. John, you haven't really talked about the visuals yet. I know your score was a little bit lower than Toa and my score.
Well, it is very notably a lower budget film. I could very clearly see throughout the film that it wasn't at the type of polish that I would like to see from Lego trying to be realistic and like stop motiony. But yes, they were very creative. I thought a lot of the action, the quote unquote action in the background was very Lego inspired and how things worked. That's well done, but um, again, visually, it was a little. It caught my eyes several times. It was like, okay, yeah, that's not as much as I would like it to be, but yeah, it is very colorful. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's fair. I will
Eddie's.
admit
Yeah.
I am a sucker for glow. So like every time they had a piece glowing or like all the
Yes.
particle effects that were glowing, I was like, ooh, I do like that a lot. So I admit I was not paying as much attention to like the shaders. Uh, but I also think I went in with pretty low expectations too. So I think it exceeded my expectations visually.
Yeah, for me it really exceeded my expectations, even going in with slightly higher expectations. That again, yeah, the raw quality of it is obviously not at the level of the other Lego movies. Just from a budgetary perspective, that would have been impossible to do. But what they are able to do creatively with it surpasses what any of the other Lego movies have done. And the other Lego movies have done a lot visually and creatively. But
Well, I we sh- it wouldn't be impossible, but it probably wouldn't be ethical. it anyway.
I'm not sure
I'm
what you mean
not
by that.
following.
I mean, you could always force the animators without pay, so you're saving money. But we're
Oh, I
That's
see, for the
true.
yeah,
budgetary
yeah,
for the budgetary
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
And I do think they probably outsourced a lot of the animation to countries where with lower wages for artists, unfortunately. I'm not seeing a listed production company in any of the I tried Googling it and it wasn't showing up on Wikipedia. So that information is probably out there somewhere.
Probably.
I was going to
hmm
do it for this, but that I forgot to look that up. But yeah, no, I mean it's just, yeah, again, considering the budget and considering how creative they were able to go with this, I can't give it anything less than a 5. This I mean, it's honestly, this is, for me, raw quality wise, it's not as good as the other Lego movies, but the creativity that they put into it, this might be my favorite visually of the Lego movies.
Interesting. Yeah, I gave it a 4.5. I think the way I saw it was visuals were not there is still room for like the actual animation to be better. So I don't feel like for me it was a 5 out of 5. But what it did is it gave everything a lot of visual substance rather than just making sure everything had the right amount of reflection or fingerprints on it. they made the visual, like they made all the Lego and the animation flow well in a way where it didn't bother me. So definitely like super well done. But I think uh Lego Movie 1 and 2 probably still have my heart for best visual Lego movies.
Hmm. And for me, judging it strictly on visuals, I gave it a 3.3.
Yeah, onto the. I guess there isn't really much voice acting here. There are
Yeah.
certain lines that are voice acted. With certain of the interview subjects, you can tell when they're voice acting a little bit more than others. Some of the line deliveries aren't always great, but these aren't professional actors, so I'm not gonna hold that against them. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really have anything to say here. I think the interviews, for the most part, have good audio quality. There were a couple that were maybe not at the same level, but yeah.
Yeah. They were fine. I think the bigger performance is like how they strung together uh the different clips, and I think they did fine. I don't really have a spot to judge here. It was just kind of, again, I don't really, this is just kind of middle of the road of, it wasn't distractingly bad, but it wasn't so good that I was like, ah, yes, I remember when Snoop Dogg said that one thing. He said it really well. So,
Yeah, I give the performances here a 3.5 out of 5. I do think it is neat that this many people showed up for Pharrell for this documentary. That just speaks to him as an artist and an industry
yeah.
figure.
Yeah, that's true. I give it a 3. Again, middle of the road. It's kind of, documentary is not uh a genre that works super well for a rating system where you're judging
Yeah, no, yeah.
voice acting or characters, I guess, either. So I think middle of the road is where I'm gonna have to follow this one too.
Yeah, same with me. I give it a 3. It's like
Well,
I'd
one
be
thing that
judging
is
people.
yeah.
It's like, you had like a lisp when you said that one. Oh, that's a deduction off.
You said this many times. How dare you?
uh,
Don't rate this podcast. Don't rate my performance on this podcast by that metric. 'Cause,
yeah.
uh, well, yeah. Finally, we have the music. I think there is a lot to talk about here because the way this integrates the songs and the beats and the different components of the songs, like it's just a joy to
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. I with the sound, I would be intrigued to find out how much of their budget went towards licensed music. Because
Hmm.
this music, or this movie, by what it is, needed to have licensed music, which I don't say a lot about a lot of movies. I think oftentimes they just kind of default to licensed music. But in this one, it was like, okay, they have to showcase all of Pharrell's music, which I don't know if they got a discount or could use it for free because Pharrell is producing it. But then on top of that,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, all of Snoop Dogg's songs that they use in this, or even things that were used before the sequence where he's producing in the film, um, like Funky Town, in songs like that were like inspirational songs to him as a child. Um, I'm intrigued to know how much of their budget they used to get those, and if that also affected, you know, their overall box office earnings. I don't think we've talked about this. Their earnings for this movie were not good. They spent
Yeah.
16 million, which is impressive, but they only made about 10 million worldwide.
Hmm.
10.7, I think.
Yeah. Which
So,
honestly, for a documentary, is not bad. But yeah, this obviously wasn't what they were hoping for. I honestly don't imagine that Lego or even Pharrell would necessarily view this as a loss.
Yeah.
Maybe they do, but yeah, again, I think this was always a risk financially, but I feel like it was being made for reasons that were not just financial.
Yeah, that's fair. And to be fair, similar to the other Lego movies, this is an advertisement. I'll
Yeah,
admit, now I know a little bit more about the music artist. So when a song that is produced by him or has him in it at all comes on, I will have a more positive attitude towards it. Don't know if I'll seek out his music much more, but I will have more positive reactions to it, which might lead to uh more music plays. If I'm not going to shut off music that is by him, not that I would have before, but like I might enjoy it more. Might be
yeah,
like, oh
Sure.
yeah, he's got good music. So they might make back some of the money just from that side of it too.
yeah, yeah. And I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure how this was financed and who would have taken the biggest hit from this. Um,
Yeah.
it is unfortunate that it didn't make more, but like I don't know that this was ever going to make more.
Yeah. I do think it's like it's a huge bummer to me that it didn't break even at least.
Yeah, yeah,
Um but like it's also just very it's niche, I think is the big thing. To
yeah,
where like I had a similar issue with a video that I made um for YouTube as just like a small comparison is I did a animated like short thing of taking the intro from the video game Helldivers and superimposing a bunch of Bionicle animation to it because I found um, a lot of things that were similarities is the word I was looking
yeah,
for,
yeah,
a lot of similarities between the two, and I was like, oh, this would be fun to combine the two. And I don't know how many views it's going to get, but if I put in a lot of effort, I'll get a lot of views. And I did that, and I'm really proud of what came out of it. But the problem with what happened was it had to fall into the niche of people that play Helldivers, and then into the niche of people that like Bionicle. And it wasn't an either or; it was a both. And this movie, I feel like, is similar to where it's like it appeals to Lego people and it appeals to music people, specifically fans of Pharrell Williams. But you kind of have to be a fan of both to go out of your way to watch this movie.
yeah. And especially like the hip hop side of music, which has a very different aesthetic than the Lego aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you are right that the audience was extremely limited. Um, I do kind of feel like the primary audience that this was intended for was Pharrell. So in that sense, this is maybe a big success.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is unfortunate that this didn't make more money because it also means that they're less likely to do another big project like this
Yeah.
that's a little bit out of everyone's wheelhouse, but ends up being very exciting and interesting.
Yeah. I will say this much. I just Googled his net worth, and he's supposedly at $250 million of net worth. If I had that much money and I could make a Lego movie about myself, I would do it, even at a
Yeah,
loss.
yeah,
I I, I respect the decision to do this.
yeah,
Truth be told, this is one of those things that it's like I've made it. It makes me look cool. Visually very well done. This I'm gonna play for like my grandkids, and whenever I have a funeral, they're watching the whole documentary about me.
uh, yeah. It kind
Yeah.
of Again, I don't know. I don't know if he financed it or if they found other financiers. But there's Wes Anderson. His films don't tend to make a whole lot of money, but he actually
Mhm.
has. There's a billionaire who just really loves Wes Anderson films and funds all of his films. Um, so
Hmm.
so it is that kind of thing of like, hey, maybe the intended audience here, it's not about financial success. It's about appealing to a specific group of people and giving them something interesting to watch. I should have finished that sentence.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, as for the music, yeah, it's just so well integrated, all these different tracks, and it was a lot of fun for me being like, oh, I recognize that song. Oh, Pharrell worked on that song. That's neat.
Yeah.
I started to kind of hear. I don't have a good ear for like music as an art form. I tend to more listen for entertainment or in the background. But I was starting to hear little similarities between the songs that he was working on. So that was fun to kind of get that. I will say I wasn't the original songs he's bringing in here were not my favorite songs in the movie.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I think they a critique that I had when the song Happy first came out. Um Mind you, I was in what, high school or college or
Yeah.
something at the time, so I was quite a bit younger. But the critique that I had was that it was overly poppy. Like it felt too corporate, if that makes sense. Like it was trying to
Yeah.
broadly appeal to everyone, which I think is true. And I've since grown to appreciate it more because it, it's not trying to be more than it is. It's just a good song. It's just decent. Um, but it does lack some depth to it, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's the vibe that I get for a lot of the songs that he makes for um like animated films like Despicable Me. Don't get me wrong, all of the songs that he's made for Despicable Me have been bangers. If you're just listening to them, they sound very fun, but they are not all too deep. The lyrics are pretty straightforward. You're going to get what you get out of it. You know, if you listen to it 30 times, you're not going to get more out of it than you did the first time. Is how I'll
Yeah.
put it. Um the piece by the song piece by piece um works in the film, but I would be surprised if it got a lot of listens outside of the film.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that type of it doesn't have the same quality that some of his producing work has or his featured work.
Yeah.
But yeah, John, any thoughts on the music here? As someone who's less connected with the music world, were you recognizing the songs as they were popping up here?
Yeah, not like I was like, oh, this is from that artist or that artist. It was like, okay, there's a vague familiarity with him. Throughout the film, I was just like, okay, I hope and can't wait to the point where we get to Daft Punk, because that's the one that I recall him the most. And
Yeah.
finally, when we got to that point in the film, I was not disappointed at all. It was like at the end of like his dark arc, and he's just floating in space. And my back in my brain is like, you know what, space. This would be the perfect
Space.
place to introduce Daft Punk. And that's exactly what they did. And I was like, yes. And then they recreated the music video in Lego. It was like, ah, yes, cool,
Yeah.
good. I was getting into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, just songs, music, they're
You know
cool.
how the Muppets movies are like Muppet recreations that are kind of parodies of their own movies? I
Yeah.
think we need that in Lego more. I would watch it.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't think I
I
would sit down and force myself to watch Phantom of the Opera, but if it was done with Legos, I would watch it. That's all I'm saying. Make the boring movies Lego.
You know what I thought of? Because they have that very quick cutaway to a clip from Frankenstein in Lego.
Mm.
Universal has
Yeah.
all of those monster movies. What if we got a Lego Universal monster movie in that black and white style? Like, that would be so cool.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
I think the big thing that Lego specifically needs to make sure that they're, for anything Lego, they need to make sure that they do still have good writers. Because
Yeah.
I've been trying to watch some of the like Lego Star Wars stuff that keeps coming out on Disney Plus, and most of it is just bad.
Yeah, it's not good. Oh.
Hmm.
Yeah, I gave the music here a 4 out of 5. Again, so well integrated. It's just the original songs weren't really doing anything for me.
Yeah, I think I'm in between the two of you. I gave it a 3.75. It was like the music in and of itself, I don't feel like contributed to the film side of it, but it contributed to the documentary side of it, where it's like well, you have to have this music in here to really demonstrate how impactful Pharrell was, but the music wasn't something that made the film more enjoyable. Like, it didn't enhance the experience. It was more of like a
Yeah.
display of what he's done. I thought it was just all right. It wasn't. I'm not gonna put on the OST for this because there's not really an OST for this.
Yeah.
I mean, I would listen to the Daft Punk album a lot. But anyway, I gave it a 3.5. Yeah, that's my road trip music. It's just that album. It's like,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
perfect.
That's
I'm on a
good.
long
Like,
road trip.
kind of
It's like, yes, these
upbeat.
are great songs.
I started listening to. Well, I love. Did you know that Mila Jovovich, the actress, has like an album from the '90s, and it's actually pretty
mm,
decent. That's one of my go-tos because it's fun to sing along to. She has a lot of like fun vocal movements that's fun to sing along to. I also recently started listening to more metal in the car just because I'm a bit of an anxious driver. So having something intense just kind of lets me let out some of that stress into the music rather than worrying about the road. I mean, obviously, you still have to worry about the road because you're in a car, but
yeah.
yeah.
No, I just crank the tunes, close my eyes, and let the metal take over.
Yeah. Anyway, that leaves me with a total score of 15.3, which is a 61.2% or 3.065 star rating.
Yeah, and I have an 18 out of 25, which is a 72% or a 3.6 out of 5 stars.
Yep, and that leaves me with a 16.75 out of 25, which is a 67% or 3.35 stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was happy to watch this and to have enjoyed it.
I think the takeaway that I got from this, like, most of the time when I see a documentary, there are parts of it that stick with me really well. And I think this one has a lot of moments that will stick with me. But also, this is a film that I don't expect to ever watch again. The visuals were
Yeah.
great, and I think it's one that would work very well as like a background movie if you like, if you don't want to
Yeah.
actually pay attention to it, but like you want to like look at something pretty every once in a while. I think it fits pretty well. But I'm not gonna sit down and watch through it again. I don't think the story was well paced enough to make me think, yes, this is a ride that I want to get on again. It's more of a, that was good. I'm glad I watched it. It was a good experience. I will recommend it to people that are interested by animation or by music, or just want a fun new experience. Absolutely. But if you're looking for a good story, look to the other Lego movies. Maybe not Ninjago. I look to the other Lego movies.
Yeah. Well, with that, thank you everyone for listening, and make sure to follow us on social media. We're Binging Barbie Podcast on Instagram and Tumblr, Binging Barbie on Blue Sky and Serialized, and Binging Barbie, a Barbie movie podcast on Letterboxd. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a 5-star review and go to our Patreon at patreon.com/Binging Barbie Podcast. Toa, where can people find you?
People can find me on twitch.tv/Toa Legend. I stream most every week on Thursday at 10 p.m. Although I'm probably going to be expanding to more times, so keep an eye out for that.
All right. And we'll be back next week to go through our rankings of the Lego movies. And until then, if you're leaving, I'm with it. Wait. Okay.
Bye, Barbie.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Barbie.
Screwed that up.